This past week, I have done several interviews and done a few Ask Me Anythings and even a couple of Twitter X spaces around the new book, Bulletproof, by myself and Jack Posobiec. And in these interviews and in these conversations, the question has been coming up how? First of all, how did you write this book in 4.5 weeks from idea to draft? How did you make it interesting so people who are reading it are describing it like a whodunit mystery, but it's nonfiction? How did you do that when so many nonfiction books read like Wikipedia articles? What do we do different? So I'll tell you that. This is useful for you if you ever want to write a book, you want to write another book, you want to write any kind of long form nonfiction, be it blog posts, articles, white papers, a manifesto, or a memoir, even, or a Twitter thread, now called X. What we did was we first decided what kind of a book this is. What kind of a book this is. So for us, that meant what sort of books like this do people already read? So this is what is key. What is similar in its approach? When people find this and begin to skim it real quick, where does it fit in their consciousness? Well, we wanted it to fit with other books on both attempted and successful assassinations of political leaders. So for us in the United States, that meant books on the JFK shooting. There's one by Roger Stone, who is one of the endorsers of our book. And there are others, like 5 Days in November, one's called. So the working title of our book, now called Bulletproof, was at the outset 9 Days in July. Like 5 days in November, you get it? Okay. Specifically, that 9 days from when Donald Trump was shot in Butler, Pennsylvania, to the soft palace coup of Joe Biden by his own people. And they've admitted to doing that. That's exactly what they did. This is what they do every single time. So it's no stretch or speculation to say that. It's confirmed by the party leadership. Democrats. This is what they do every single time. So then the subtitle was, given what I just described, how a shot meant for Donald Trump took out Joe Biden. That was the original subtitle. So we have title and subtitle, working title rather than subtitle. We had to change both. First being, no one knows what 9 days in July means, and after Kamala replaced Trump and she lost the debate to Trump because he became a viral sensation over the eating the cats, eating the dogs remark, and young, beautiful, fit, attractive girls all over TikTok were describing the situation in Springfield via a somewhat hilarious dance and turning it into a song. So Trump easily won the youth vote because it's fun. It's become sexy, obviously. So he won that. And then, of course, they try again. We have Ryan Wesley Routh, who was a known Biden-Harris supporter, bumper sticker on his car, participated in antics in Ukraine. We don't know if it was simply training or demolitions or battlefield. We're not entirely sure on all that yet. But we do know that he did have some sort of tactical training because when he camped outside of Donald Trump's golf course, he had 2 backpacks, and the backpacks had plates in them, which is spontaneous battlefield gear. He had effectively a sniper's nest, similar to what we see being used by guerrilla fighters and those who are desperate in Ukraine against Russia. We know that he was affiliated in some way, to some extent, advertising, supporting, promoting the Azov Battalion, the known war criminals in Ukraine. And if you don't understand what's going on in Russia right now, Ukraine right now, because you think history in there began February 2022, and you don't understand what's been happening in Ukraine, targeting ethnic Russians in Ukraine since 2014, you are lost. As Obi-Wan said to Anakin in Revenge of the Sith. There's a prequel meme for everything, I'm telling you. Coming back to Ryan Wesley Routh, there's a lot that's there. And so we had to change the subtitle because now it's the assassination attempts, plural. But coming back to that context, what we just said, that's what the book is. But the working title and original subtitle gave us a clear runway, so to speak, knowing exactly what this book is going to be like. So then I looked at the structure of existing best-selling books that cover attempted assassinations and also successful ones, particularly JFK. How deep do they go? What is the narrative like? What's the writing style like? All these things. I did my homework before writing anything. And I began doing my homework and I began writing the book July 13th around 9:30 p.m. Wait, why is July 13th familiar? Because Trump was shot at 6:11 p.m. 3 hours later, I began writing the book. We had not discussed it. Obviously, it just happened. But when I saw that the first time, the first headline from social media, Trump shot, multiple Trump supporters shot, one confirmed dead. And then I go look at what the mainstream media is saying, and they're saying Trump collapses on stage, firecrackers heard. I was reminded in that moment of being 10 years old, turning on television and seeing the second tower fall. First tower, actually. No, second tower be hit. Memories are mixed, but as you are gathering, I thought of 9/11. That this is a turning point. It's a watershed moment. It's a fork in the road of history. Akin to 9/11. And the media is not even reporting it. I was pissed. And what does a pissed literary professional do? A PLP. What does a PLP do? He writes a book about you. So there, of course, now is a chapter called The Cover-Up, demonstrating the media's attempt to pretend this never happened because it creates mass empathy for Trump. And that's why we chose the photo of Trump so vulnerable in that position. Man sees that, he will run through a brick wall for that guy. What does this mean for you in your next long-form writing project? That's nonfiction. It could even be an email. People think you're supposed to title and subtitle things later. No. You need the title and subtitle first. That's your North Star. That's your direction. That's what this thing is. People think that when you hire a ghostwriter, you write all the content and then see what you got and then build a book out of it. No. Now, I will say this is what most people say you should do, but it's not. You don't interview someone. You decide what the book is and then you write it. So after we decided the title and subtitle, and I did my homework and looked at the structure, I put together an outline. This took a rather short period of time, by the way, to do all this. We're talking a few hours. From I'm witnessing Trump being shot in the head the first time on July 13th, a few minutes after 6/11. And then I've got the table of contents for the book covering it. It is the first and only book covering it, by the way. I like doing these shows with you, by the way. I appreciate you watching. I know you're a sometime regular to my content here or there. Maybe you just found me for the first time. It's called We Do a Little Binging. I appreciate you listening, being here with me. Thank you. We're getting close to 50 episodes now of this. I'll keep going if you want. Would you mind pausing it real quick and going down and putting a comment, reply, if you like what you're hearing, you like what you see, you want more of this, what you want more of, what you don't want more of. My friend Jose Rosado, who I did an episode about a couple of days ago, maybe a week ago, actually. He put me up to this. He said, when you give interviews, you don't do false starts. You don't do uhs and ums and pauses. You don't ramble. You just simply pick your thing and you go. It is a perfect rant, he said. You should do a show 15 minutes per day on YouTube called Daily Persuasion, where you just talk for 15 minutes unscripted about something happening in the news and apply the persuasion filter. And I've done that almost 50 times now. Thanks, Jose. But is it worth it to you? Is it valuable? Let's pick up with the book now. So we've got the title, we've got the subtitle. If you're writing an email, that means you need the subject line and preview text. See? If you're writing a sales page, that means you need the headline and the subhead. If you're writing a Twitter thread, an X thread, that means you need the hook and then the first sentence after explaining what the heck this thing is. Start there. That gives you the direction. And then you look up other things. That's step 1 and step 2. Title, subtitle. Step 3 is you do your homework. It's called we do a little homework. And that's where you go and look at, okay, this thing I'm about to write, how does it typically look to people? So that it's familiar enough that they feel comfortable reading it because they know what to expect. Versus something that's unfamiliar and it's different from what I'm used to, so I don't want to look at that. Okay, so you got that. That's step 3, homework. Step 4 is you do your outline. Once you see what people are used to, now you do your outline of the things you know you need to cover, topics you know you need to cover. That's what we did. So we knew we needed to cover a whole chapter on the shooting, the day of, and then we need to have a chapter on the shooter himself. Later, we realized we had to stop the presses and do the chapter on Ryan Wesley Roth, which we wrote that day. He was found, he was caught, and he was arrested. We wrote it that same afternoon and submitted it to the publisher at around 1:30 a.m. Whole chapter. You read that, you'll go, there's no way that they wrote this in just a couple of hours. No way whatsoever. So good they call you a fake. Once you list out your topics that you know need to be in this thing, the next thing that you'll do is you will then organize them in order. The next step after that, you tracking with me here? Tracking? Okay. You will then add more details. So related to, let's say, the shooter, for example, what needs to be in that chapter? That's where Jack came in, sending me hundreds of articles, interviews, reports, redacted, more redacted. I believe doxing is not just unethical, but it's illegal. Yeah, it would have not been a good situation to do that. In any case, the best way to not get in trouble is to know what the law is, so we don't break the law. What I want for you after you've got the outline together, you will then flesh it out. All of these things that you're getting, the material you're gathering, flesh it out, write it out. Start with the beginning, write the opening of each chapter. This is what I did for Bulletproof, by the way. I wrote the opening of each chapter. I didn't write the entire chapter and then do the next chapter. I wrote first the opening section of each chapter, and I wrote the ending, like this, so the transitions, which are the hardest parts of chapters, and then took all that material that Jack sent me and ran with it. That's how I did it in 4.5 weeks. That's how you can write quickly. You can write something that's good. You can write something that is a part of history.